You carry a restless longing inside you, a silent whisper that tells you there must be more than what you have mastered so far. You feel inadequate when you try and fail, when you bounce from skill to skill without ever building depth. The world around you is filled with distractions, infinite information, and promises of quick fixes, but none of them teach you how to truly learn. What no one tells you is that ancient Japan solved this problem centuries ago. They created a path not just to learn, but to internalize, to embody, to become. A secret method called Shuhari. If you walk through its 3 gates, you can unlock a way to learn anything 10 times faster than the average person. But there is a cost, because stage 1 demands total surrender. Few endure. Few reach the mastery you crave. And in that crucible is where your transformation begins. Take a moment now to feel into the desire behind the desire. Close your eyes in your mind and name the one skill you have avoided for years. Perhaps it's playing guitar or coding or speaking a language or mastering a martial art. Whatever it is, admit it. Let it echo in your mind. This skill is not just a dream. It is a call, and you are standing at a threshold. You step into the life of Daniel Reyes, a 28-year-old working as a junior software technician. He is bright and ambitious, but he is haunted by the realization that despite all his effort, he has never truly mastered anything. He buys online courses, starts them with fervor, and abandons them when the novelty fades. He signs up for guitar lessons, jots down a few chords, and then puts the guitar back in its case. He reads philosophy and productivity books, but when Monday comes, he is back to square one. He wonders what is wrong with him. He wonders why others seem to lock into growth while he is left spinning. One night, weary from another cycle of starting and quitting, he sits in front of his computer coding a simple exercise. He fails a challenge he has done before. He deletes his code, refreshes the page, and stares blankly at the screen. He feels like a prisoner of his own ambition, bound by his inability to sustain momentum. He leans back, closes his eyes, and whispers that perhaps he is not cut out for greatness. You know this moment intimately because you have been there. This quiet failure. This ache in your gut. This question of your own potential. Daniel decides he needs to find a different way. He books a trip to Japan under the guise of work. He wanders through quiet alleys in Kyoto, finding solace in the stillness of ancient temples. One afternoon, he enters a budokan, a training hall where the wood smells of polished floors and incense. The air feels heavy, older than the building itself. He watches a master train alone. A man moves with such fluidity, such presence, that every motion feels intentional. The master draws a breath, steps forward, and performs a single irimi step. That one step holds centuries of practice and power. Daniel's heart pounds. The master notices him. He does not invite him. He only nods, and the room seems to shift. When Daniel finally speaks, he asks how the master acquired such grace, such speed, such control. The master smiles, calm and deep like a dark pool, and gives his name, Yushiba Morihei. He tells Daniel of an ancient teaching, a secret framework used by great warriors and artists called Shuhari. He explains that to truly learn a skill, one must first obey. Then one must break. Then one must transcend. Daniel listens, unsettled and hopeful. He senses that this teaching is exactly what he has searched for without knowing. The next morning, before the sun has fully risen, Daniel stands barefoot on polished wood under Yushiba's watchful gaze. The master gives him a wooden sword and instructs him simply, perform the irimi step, again and again. Not 20 times, not 50, 1,000 times, day after day. The monotony hits him like a cold wave. His legs quiver, his mind screams. He wants to quit after 100, after 200. By 500, his arms shake. By 800, he is soaked in sweat. His breathing falters. His ego rebels. He asks himself why he is doing this. What progress could come from the same movement repeated over and over? You know this pain. You have chased dreams that fizzled the instant things got dull. You have left growth at the altar of distraction. This is the moment where most people give up. The modern world rewards novelty. It punishes consistency. But Yushiba does not break his gaze. Gently, he tells Daniel to return tomorrow and begin again, with greater focus, with less expectation, with deeper intent. After a week, the resistance remains, but something starts to shift. His movements refine. His breath grows steady. The wooden sword begins to feel less foreign in his hands. He becomes aware not just of the step, but of his body, his weight, his balance. He begins to feel the micro-adjustments, tiny shifts that only matter when you repeat a motion endlessly. He does not yet know the science, but he knows something in his mind is changing. Mateo from Harvard once wrote about how repeated, focused practice reshapes neural pathways faster than scattered effort. You sense this, that your mind and body are building together, forging a highway where there once was only fog. But here is what no one tells you. Stage 1 is the crucible, and most people fail because they think mastery is about fast results. They think if they cannot see immediate progress, they must be doing it wrong. They quit too early. They delude themselves into thinking that true growth should feel comfortable or exciting. In reality, the first gate demands sacrifice, of ego, of impatience, of the narrative that you are already skilled simply because you tried. One morning, Daniel arrives and feels fear. He says to Yushiba that his desire for structure feels like a prison. He confesses that repetition feels contrary to his creative spirit. The master replies softly, "Obedience is not limitation. It is the soil from which mastery grows. If you refuse to lean into discomfort, you will never plant roots deep enough to sustain your growth." Daniel nods, hurt and hopeful. He stays. After some time under the weight of constant repetition, his body becomes more confident. His mind still whispers doubt, but he can breathe through it. He carries his sword with a subtle strength. Yet Yushiba knows he cannot stay in this stage forever. So he introduces Daniel to a new teacher, a calligrapher with steady hands and a piercing gaze. This teacher requires Daniel to draw strokes with the same discipline but with completely different intention. One day he tells Daniel to slow his movement, breathe softly, let the brush flow as though dancing. The next he demands tightness, precision, pressure. The contrast unsettles Daniel deeply. He feels torn between softness and force, between letting go and holding fast. He doesn't know how both can be true, until the teacher explains that breaking comes from embracing paradox. This is the second gate, the stage of disruption. It is not chaos without purpose. It is not rebellion without structure. It is the deliberate dismantling of the rigid patterns you just built. It is the space where you learn to flow between order and freedom instead of clinging to one. There is tension, yes, but there is growth in that tension. In this stage, your mind becomes more flexible, your awareness more supple. Scientists at a premier university in Tokyo studied learners who alternated between divergent tasks and found that the brain forms more connections, not fewer. You feel it in Daniel as he begins to merge what he learned with the sword and what he learns with the brush. His movement becomes less about copying and more about understanding principles. Some days you watch him move with the sword, feel the slash in the air, and sense that belonging. Other days you watch him pulse in stillness, brush in hand, drawing weightless strokes. His awareness deepens. He no longer fears contradiction. He no longer fears breaking what he built because he knows that the break is part of the building. He is becoming fluid. He is becoming adaptive. You sense that this is part of the secret. Then comes the final gate. Yushiba brings Daniel into a dim room with candles flickering, shadows dancing on wood. 3 students stand as obstacles. Daniel holds his wooden sword. He closes his eyes and breathes. He steps forward. They move rapidly, attacking. He moves not from thought but from presence. He slashes precisely. He blocks intuitively. He weaves. He responds. He does not pause to analyze. His movement is neither fast nor slow. It is simply right. He cuts, he defends, he flows. Then he lowers his sword. Silence. He opens his eyes and Yushiba nods. Daniel has passed. He has transcended. He has moved beyond technique. He has become. When he returns home, his presence is different. It is subtle but unmistakable. He walks with calm strength. He speaks with intention. He listens before he responds. People around him notice. Some ask what changed. Some remain silent, unsettled by the shift. His old peers comment on how serious he has become. Others worry he is too distant, but beneath their remarks you see a deeper truth. Your mastery exposes the gap in their own. They sense it and they do not know what to do with it. You know this too. When you change deeply, others want you to shrink so they don't feel small. When you grow, your presence can become a mirror that unsettles them. You must decide if you will dim your light to soothe their discomfort, or if you will remain grounded in your transformation. Daniel chooses groundedness. Now imagine how this ancient path applies to your own life. The skill you named at the beginning is not random. It is a door. You can apply Shuhari to anything: language, art, business, movement. You can choose one micro-action and repeat it daily until your hands know it without thinking. You can break what you built by introducing paradox, variation, and discomfort. And you can test it under pressure so that you stop thinking and simply respond. When you do this, you harness the same secret that samurai and masters used to forge their lives. But here is a brutal truth that no one likes to admit. You think you are too slow because you lack talent. But the real problem is that you have never repeated anything long enough to become someone new. You think learning should feel exciting and effortless, but transformation requires stillness, repetition, obedience. Insight is not enough. Depth is forged in monotony. You must outlast your own resistance. When Daniel finally embraces this path, he begins teaching what he has learned, not because he wants to show off, but because he knows the cycle of frustration too well. He shows his students one way. He teaches them to choose one small movement, to repeat it daily, to stay loyal, to break only after consistency, to test under pressure, and to share what they learn. He tells them that mastery is not a destination. It is lineage. It is connection to something bigger than the self. It is the living path of Shuhari. And now it comes back to you. This is your invitation, not to dream again, not to try harder superficially, but to begin a process. Choose the skill you named, commit to it, whisper it under your breath. Practice your first repetition today. Place yourself in the crucible of repetition. Walk through obedience, then disruption, then transcendence. Let the secret of ancient Japan become your secret too.